Welcome to another edition of RCE. Again, this is Brock Palin. You can find the RCE podcast online at rce-cast.com. You can also follow me personally on Twitter, where I tweet about HPC and computer-related things. All one word, Brock Palin. And you can also find that linked on our website. Again, also, I have Jeff Squires from Cisco Systems. He's also one of the authors and organizers of OpenMPI. So, Jeff, thanks again for your time.
Hey, Brock. How's it going? People can find me on Twitter as well, Jeff Squires. I tweet not very frequently, but I did recently. Every once in a while when something grabs my eye. I'm not a regular tweeter, but I do. But I do try to write in my blog at least once a week or so. So all that's linked off the website. I guess other shout-outs we should give. By the time this goes to air, I think Euro MPI starts about a week after this goes to air. So be looking for interesting research results to come out of that. That's always a cool conference.
Yeah, and for everyone else in the HPC community, especially those of us in the States, the big one, supercomputing, is coming up in November, so we're only a little more than a month away from that. So I will be there. Jeff, I assume you will be there?
Yes, I'll be there, and we'll be doing the rounds.
Yep. Be looking around for the normal listeners and former guests we've had. So, again, SE is always a lot of fun. It always puts me to sleep, though, too, afterwards. I need to take a vacation after SC.
It is exhausting. And then right after that is Thanksgiving, where you're inevitably descended upon by family. So no rest for the wicked even after supercomputing.
So our guest today, it's funny. I actually tweeted once that I wished more software providers included modules, which we will get into, modules with their software packages, and so we wouldn't have to write so many ourselves. But we have with us today...
Sorry, and modules with a very specific meaning, not the generic software module meaning, but a very specific software package.
Yeah, not Fortran modules, no other type of modules. This is environment modules, I think is what some people call them, to clarify it. But our guest is RK Owen, and RK is actually his initials, but RK is joining us from the Pacific Coast. So, RK, thanks for your time.
Well, thanks very much, Brock and Jeff. I appreciate being here today, and let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I currently work at Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, part of the NERSC, or the National Energy Research Scientific Computing Center. It's a division there. I'm originally a physicist by training, but I found that I enjoy software far more than doing the physics, so I've kind of gravitated towards that, and so I've been kind of part of maintaining the modules for several years now.
So for those of us who are not familiar with modules, what exactly are they and what do they accomplish?
Well, first of all, I kind of identify them as environment modules because, as you know, modules is kind of an overloaded term. There's kernel modules, Perl modules, Python modules, and I think you mentioned like Fortran modules. And but I think this kind of got there first. And it was originally identified just as modules. But more correctly, it's environment modules. And what it does is it allows a user to easily manipulate their user environment. That being like you have environment variables like path, man path, LD, library path, and so on and so forth. And so it allows you to kind of change those on the fly. And also, you can create aliases for if you run in the C shell or Bourne shell. You have kind of a unified way where you can create an alias in those shells. And kind of a side benefit, it also will modify X11 window resources too.
Now, Brock and I are both long-time environment module users. I think we've exchanged some emails even many years ago in my prior life as a research assistant back at Indiana University and possibly even way back at my Notre Dame days. But one of the genius things that I love about environment modules from a user perspective is that it can add and remove things from your environment. Even if, for example, some path is in the middle of your $path environment, and you can say, oh, yes, well, unload that package, and environment modules will just go and find it in the middle of the path and remove it. And to me, that was always a wonderful, wonderful thing for, particularly for users who don't know or care how all that mojo works. They just want to say, I don't want that in my environment anymore. Was that a specific design goal?
I think, the original design was to be as flexible as possible with dealing with these environment variables. And so I think it had always been designed with that goal where if you had some entry in a path that was like in the middle, that it would be easily could extract it, remove it. But you'll find that most of the module commands themselves do things like you prepend to the path or you append to the path, and that's kind of the if you're calling upon a new you want to instantiate a new application in your environment. Generally, that module file will be appending onto your path. And you do a number of these things and say, then you want to remove it, then you do a module remove, then it'll extract it from the path wherever it may be.
So on traditional Unix and Linux type systems, we've always just modified the dot files, .bashrc, .cshrc. So besides removing entries from the middle of your path, what's some of the other benefits of modules over using the dot files?
Well, in the dot files, you're still free to use them wherever. That's what's nice about modules is that you're not locked into one thing or the other. Well, the thing about dot files is that it's fine for people where you have a very much a static environment. You have your set number of few applications that you want to use. Well, so you could put that stuff in the dot files just as well. However, with modules, what's kind of nice about it is that you can have, if you need to use some application today, but you don't need to use it tomorrow, instead of kind of having it litter your environment, you can just say, well, module load application 1 here. And then that'll put it in your environment, and you can start using it. But tomorrow, you don't want to have it. You don't want it in your environment. Or if you say you're trying out some new application, and or you want to trade between two applications or two versions of the same application. So modules allows you to load one, try it out, unload it, load the other application or the other version, try that out, and so you can go back and forth very easily. Now, one thing also that modules does, which I kind of like, is that it allows a person or a system administrator to kind of place their applications in its own root. And like for me, I usually put my application under user local package, and then the package name, and then version number. And so you don't have to just dump everything into user local bin, which has been the usual way of doing things.
Now that is a good thing and allows multiple concurrent versions of the same software package, for example, or multiple different builds for whatever reason, maybe based on architecture or configuration or something like that. But one of the criticisms of environment modules that I've heard over the years is that, whoa, I get this ginormous path that's terrible, blah, blah, blah. What do you say to people who give that kind of complaint?
Well, I agree with them in that it can give a very large path, and I know like most of the work, or I was kind of introduced with modules on Cray, and even now they segment their applications a lot using modules, and yes, the path can be horrendously long. There's no doubt about that. However, the flip side is, well, then you have everything in user local bin. And so what's the best way of doing that? Well, I'd say it's easier to manage your